Karibuni sana. Welcome back to Daybreak and welcome back to Tuesday's discussion today. Of course, every Tuesday we have a conversation, we engage and have different conversations. To help us in those different conversations, we have Israel Robert Borale.
Thank you very much for having me here.
And CJ Atemo. And they have a separate WhatsApp group from the one that we have, because you can see they showed up in similar colors. I tried. Maybe the only member I got was Tunava Blue. Then Borale akaniruka. Akaongea CJ, you also told to wear blue. Then he told you black. We've changed now.
We're in the spirit.
It's okay. But we have some blue and black going on.
Yes.
So that's good. Now today we want to talk about something that I'm sure everybody has gone through at one point or another. We're talking about dealing with the loss, especially what we've witnessed in our country. In just the past week alone, we've lost 2 leaders, and tributes have been paid earlier on. And sometimes people always gloss over it, and it is good to send in tributes, but at the end of the day, the families, the friends, those who are close to them are actually dealing with that loss. And probably those are the ones that are documented, like I said in the morning. There are probably some of you who've lost a loved one this week. Last week, there is doubtless somebody who's dealing with loss. And loss cuts across. It could be loss of a loved one, loss of a job, loss of friendships, different kind of things. So today we want to put that in perspective. We'll also be aided by a book here by CJ. It's called It Is Not Well, Dealing with Loss and Finding Closure. Now, it is not well because most of the times, and this happens a lot in religious circles,
yes,
is that whenever you say, man, Israel, I'm dealing with something, or
it
CJ,
well.
Exactly. That is, yeah, that's the first thing. And that kind of also gives a sort of a band-aid solution to everything. It says that it is well, it is well. So I guess let's start with there. We'll start with you, CJ. So why did you coin it, it is not well?
It's not well because, just as you've said, most of the time when people will come in and say it is well, they do not want to be engaged in your process after the loss, the pain that you're going through, dealing with the reality of it. Because anytime somebody suffers loss, and especially when you're dealing with the loss like of a loved one, you have anger, you have denial, you have all this conflict that is going on, you've got all these questions that are going through your mind, and somebody just comes in and says, it is well. They may mean well, but you see, for the person that is going through the loss, there are a lot of things that are going on at that particular point that you cannot just wish them to think for one moment that everything is going to be okay. In fact, a lot of times, it's not even that they don't know that eventually things will be okay, but they're conflicted. Even when somebody has had somebody in hospital for long, they still usually have hope that a miracle will happen, this person will get well or something. So when that happens to them and they lose this loved one, there was an expectation that they had here. There was a connection. There was an attachment. There were emotions. Some of those emotions, well, is you never get to know how attached you are, for example, to somebody until you lose them. Then you realize, my good God, I didn't even know that I was this attached to this person. So when we just come in and say it is well, we shut these guys from the process. And so the reason I titled it, It Is Not Well, is so that we have the conversation here.
And like you said, the first thing, Borale, is that people just say, it is well. But CJ mentioned something there. He said that people don't want to get involved in the process because getting over, I don't know if, first of all, do guys actually ever get over loss? Because people still hold on to memories. You hear even up to date. I was watching the other day Tyler Perry giving a thank you speech, and when he talked about his parents, he choked up. When he talked about his mom, he choked up. Many years later, Steve Harvey as well, many years later, still choking up over we lost somebody. And maybe you can also tell us from your personal experience as well, because you've gone through it. Maybe you can tell us your personal story as well.
Well, for me, I lost my dad and my 2 brothers. And for my dad, it's never easy, but my dad was sick. So for lack of a better word, sometimes when somebody is critically ill, you expect it. Not that you'll deal with it better. Then my other brother died of sickle cell anemia after being in hospital for a very long time. But the other brother died in a road accident. So there are different ways in which death comes. Maybe you're prepared for it. or an accident, I mean, the pain is, I mean, I talk to you today, tomorrow you're not there. But I've been seeing you in hospital for 6 months and your health has been deteriorating. Maybe it doesn't make it easier, but you're kind of ready for that, for any eventuality, although you hope against all hope. I have never, ever gotten over my dad and my brothers. I mean, that's just the honest truth. Yes, sometimes you're okay, you're laughing, but there are moments you get to. And like my brother used to support Arsenal, and then people are talking about Arsenal, then that triggers something. And then you're caught with some overwhelming sadness, you know. And nobody can ever get over a loved one, a very close relative, you know. It's easier to say, oh, my friend died 20 years ago. Talking about your father, your brothers, or your sisters, you know. And I remember when basically I was told...
oh, sorry, I have to cut you short. Apparently, we can't hear you.
Why can't you hear me? The money being poured.
Microphone, iko na shida kidogo. We're going to work on it. And apologies for that. But like we said, Burale is giving his very personal and story there. And the aim of this today, by the way, is to help you also get over it as well. CJ, maybe as we work on Burale's mic, you can tell us if you've also dealt with loss and how you've dealt with it.
I have. I've lost my dad, I've lost 2 siblings, and then I lost my mom. At the time that I was writing this book, I'd just come from the loss of my mother. And what happened is a friend of mine, about 3 months after I had buried my mom, had lost his sister. And then he calls me and says, I've lost my sister. Then he asked me to go and conduct the memorial for him at the morgue on the day that the body was being removed. And that was a very difficult moment for me because I'd just come from this loss and still dealing with the issues of my mom's loss. Coming next to the mortuary was not the thing that I wanted to do, but then because he needed me, I had to come through for him. So I had to go and conduct that memorial right there. And I was thinking, so what am I telling these people? You know, how do I encourage somebody who's dealing with loss when I am still upset about my own loss and I'm broken? So I'm in a wounded place and I need to tell the next person that they're going to be all right.
It is well.
Yeah. That's the
And so I started, you know, just taking people through the various perspectives, talking to them about what loss, how we view it. You see, when somebody dies, their pain ends. And Arbi, again, we'll talk about the issue of his father and what, but he was talking about, you know, the father was unwell for a long time. When this person passes, their pain ends. But we who are on this side, our pain begins. Our pain starts right there. And sometimes it is fair enough to look at the pain that that person was going through and release them because it is excruciating. My mother went through, 4 years of cancer. People that are dealing with cancer right now, we dealt with 4 years of cancer treatment. And the day she passed on, when I went into the house, I told my wife I did everything I could. But I was dealing with me because I thought, what else did I not do? Where else could we have taken her? Should I have mobilized people? We mobilized resources, take to better doctors and to, other nations with better facilities and stuff like that. So I was battling with all of that. And I thought she fought to leave. She did everything that she could. She wanted to leave. So I felt like I had let her down. But in the various times that we've lost people, each one of them has been completely very different. And that's something about the loss, that every one of them is usually very different, But there will be those things that you're wondering, could I have done better? Maybe we should have been there for them more. Maybe if we could have detected this earlier. Maybe if we would have spoken to somebody, it would have been averted. So there's always a lot of things that are going on. That's why I felt that we need to allow people to go through the process and not just tell them, let it rest. It is well. Let them rest, because a lot goes on. Yeah.
Yes. So you were telling us about, your father and your brother.
My brothers. Yes. Well, I lost my father first. And when I lost my father, I wasn't in the country. And that was the longest flight from the UK to Nairobi, because a lot is going through your mind, I remember in the last conversation I had with him, he had been unwell, so I came back for my summer holiday, spent 3 months with him, going through the medicine bit with him, like how many tablets a day. And then my 2 brothers, one died of sickle cell anemia, after having been at MPSHA for many, many months. And then my other brother died of a car accident in Mombasa. So all were painful, but for lack of a better word, and I don't want to be mistaken, two, you're kind of prepared. They were very sick. That's some kind of pain. But the one of, but I talked to him yesterday. Today he's no more. You understand? And the thing is, I remember when my dad died, a friend of mine called me. I was in the UK, and she said to me, "How are you taking it?" I said, "Okay, I'm about to go for a party." Of course I'm in pain. You know, so you have to be very careful the questions you ask people. Never tell somebody who is mourning, "I know how it feels." You don't know how it feels. When he lost his mom, I sensed a lot of pain from the social media post when I talked to him. So you don't tell somebody, "I know how it feels." By the way, it can be very offensive. The best you can do is just avail yourself to that person and let them talk. If they want to talk for 5 hours, just sit and listen. But it is well. In fact, "it is well" is the most misused statement by Christians. You have to know when to say it, how to say it, in what circumstances. You know, sometimes just go and pray for somebody. Someone like CJ when he lost his mother, talk, just let him talk, you know. Let him talk. If he wants to be silent, be silent with him. Right. Not, "I know how it feels," or "you'll get over it." If you lose a brother, you don't want to believe you'll get over it. With time, of course, the pain goes, but you have moments of, like my brother was an Arsenal supporter. So when you're talking Premier League, sometimes when I meet some Arsenal supporters, that memory comes, and then sadness, and then after sadness, you now remember how you used to have the banter and maybe smile, you understand? Like for me, this is crazy. I have never, up to this day, shed a tear for my father and my two brothers. So CJ was telling me maybe I'm acting like the strong lawyer man. So we have ways in which we deal with it. I get myself very busy. I'm making sure I'm working from Monday to Sunday. You run away from it. One time I tried to mourn them, really, with a physical manifestation, and I locked myself in my room. And I started thinking about the good times we had. Tears just didn't come out. So we deal with it differently. Others scream. For me, I think I've just hidden in work.
And so I dare ask, is that healthy?
Well, it is good for one to go through the mourning
their own
process.
phase, their own way.
But again, as Arabia said, in your own way, because we will not all do it the same way. That's why the people who come in to support somebody who has lost a loved one must understand how that person is mourning. Some of them will mourn by speaking a lot. Some of them, they begin to gather all the stuff that they can get about the person who has passed on. Now, sometimes those bring conflicts in families, because you find there's one member of the family who does not want to see anything that will remind them of the loved one who has passed. Then there's this one who wants to collect everything of the one who has passed. So you'll find one saying, "Why are you people collecting this stuff? Why are you bringing them over here?" Because they don't want any memory. They cannot deal with it. Another one feels they want to stay close, attached, so they will grab anything around it. Sometimes you get families beginning to have friction around the mourning period because they are mourning differently. Most of the time, we think that how we mourn is how the other person will mourn. That's not true. So everybody must be allowed the space to mourn in the way that they can. There are people who never thought that they would speak to a dead body. And I don't want the religious guys to talk about this for me right now. Right. But the people who never would think that in loss they would speak to a dead body until they go through the process, and then they are seeing this dead person here and they think, but this person is alive. I lost my sister about 10 years ago. We were very close, and the first thing that I thought is that she was alone wherever she had gone to, and I nearly felt like I need to be there for her. Literally. You look at it from a logical perspective later, it nearly is like a suicidal thought, because I was thinking I need to be there for her. She's alone wherever she is. So everybody will grieve differently. And for me, my sisters, that one took a long time. We were very close. Every time it got to the particular date that she had passed on, I would be having issues for nearly about a year. My mother, that was a long process. You begin to mourn even before the person passes, because every day you are in this process of the dying of this person. You're in the death process because you see the body weakening, you see the medication not working. Of course, you're always still hopeful. Various again. So we must allow people to mourn in different ways. If somebody wants to scream, let them do it. They want to break down. Don't tell anybody, be a man. Don't tell anybody, be a man, man. The emotional attachment. George Bush was breaking down over his father, who was 95. He is in his 60s. He was the president of the U.S. How much of a man can you be?
Yeah.
But this is his father. This has nothing to do with work. This is his father. So we must also stop putting up these expectations on people who are not well and expecting them to be well. Yeah.
The other thing is that happens a lot is that people often get into a place where they need to blame somebody. Some blame God, some blame themselves, some blame the doctors, some, you know, how do you handle that where you're, especially the two, blaming God and yourself?
I think it's a natural thing, and depending, if you lose a child, for example, you're thinking unfulfilled potential. God, why would you allow me to bury my child, kind of thing. So you have to go, and I'm sure God understands. You know, like, God, why did you do this? In fact, if you're around somebody who is mourning and there's an outward manifestation, this statement is very, very common. God, why this one? You understand? So it's the first thing, and then you ask the doctor, but is there not anything else you would have done? And the doctors are like, you know what, we tried everything we could, but we could not. But that does not make you feel comfortable at that moment of raw mourning. You understand? So after the trying to look for blame on other people, then you ask yourself, what could I have done? You understand? Could I have done this? I know, and you know very well there's nothing you would have done, but it's just a natural thing. That's how we are made out to be. Right. And then after that, depending on your pillars of support and strength, then you start making peace with it. Now, making peace with it, that does not mean you have actually accepted that the person is gone. Right. You make peace and like, oh, you know what? The person has gone, but I'm still in pain. That is why somebody who is, you hear many people say, like I think Honorable Oboso's husband said, give us time to mourn as a family. Because that's the time you don't want to hear so many other voices. Right. If you've lost a father, like I've lost my dad. If somebody else loses their dad, I will not go and tell them, you know, I also lost my dad, you'll get over it. That's very insensitive. That's when you hear families say, give us our time to mourn the best way we can. As CJ said, some people gather everything about that person and sit around a room and say, you know, these were the photos. For me, I got rid of everything. I totally got rid of everything. I have nothing with, I have no photo, I have nothing. I brought down my dad's photos in the sitting room and all that. I have nothing. So let people mourn their own way, because sometimes the way I mourned my father is different from CJ's. So if I try and impose my style of mourning or accepting the situation on CJ, I may offend him or even make him get more pissed off. So you have to be very, very sensitive to how people mourn. And that's what I'm saying, when you're going to somebody who's mourning, don't go there acting as if you have a PhD in pacifying people. Just sit and feel what they're going through. There's silence, there's tears rolling, there's screaming, there's punching the wall. Let them punch. Don't let them hurt themselves though. But don't say, now, are you being stupid or what? You know, because let me tell you, it depends on how close somebody is. And I sat when Big Kev died. I remember we went for the funeral service, and Pastor Oscar Morillo said something, and he was very open. He said to the family, to the wife and the daughter, all these people, after some time, the phone calls will stop. Visitors will stop. They will move on with their lives. For you may go through a period of 2 years of serious pain before it starts getting better. And anybody who has suffered loss, I want you to understand, especially the African society, when somebody has just died, before the burial, you'll have very many visitors. I mean, your house will not even have space. But after that, when you come back, oh, they'll start falling off. And at that time, you may get angry, like, people have disowned me. No, they haven't disowned you. Some just need to go back to work. They're employed, and some also need to move on with their lives. So you got to prepare yourself and fortify yourself and understand that after that, people will go off. But your deep, close friends will stand with you. But don't expect 1,000 people after the burial. So when you're dealing with loss, understand there'll come a time you will need to hold each other, the immediate family, for example, as strong as you possibly can. Yeah.
And CJ also, in this book, and just even as you talk about blame game, like he said, you also talk about different perspectives. There's a chapter called God's perspective. Yeah. You know, and there's one called the promise of reunion. You know, and just But before that, I guess the one that is before we go on break is how do you get off from, you know, people who say, but lakini kama Mungu alikuwa anatupenda, mbona aliallow hii kitu ifanyike?
Yeah, you know, I look at it from this point. Of course, we get angry. We get angry with God. And I have gotten there several times. I've gotten there several times because especially of the expectation that, look, if I do work for you and we have this relationship, you better be good to me. So if I am asking for something, you need to answer me. So if I serve you and then I have an issue in my family and I come to you and I pray about it, you need to solve this one first before you solve other people's issues. That's the anger that we normally have. Like, how can you make me help everybody else and then I have one situation, just one, that I need you to fix, and then you're not fixing that. So it's usually a sense like betrayal, like you feel like God has betrayed you. But I look at it again from the perspective of when a child is going home from the school holidays, the parents are happy. We are on earth temporarily. We came in here, we will one day leave. So from the perspective of God, it's not a loss. It is a gain. It is precious. It's like children who have closed school, they're going back to their parents. But we who are here, again, like if we were in school together, then we're all going home, we begin to feel the loss of missing one another. Like, I'm not going to see you till probably the next time, you know, so I feel that separation. So from God's perspective, it is his people coming home. But it does not alleviate the pain, because we mostly still feel we want to be with this person right over here. We're not saying that it is not right for them to go, but then because we have emotionally been attached to them, we don't know how to deal with that loss. In fact, one of the statements, RPS said, you know, we abuse the it is well. The other statement that I keep on seeing, which I think is very insensitive, is to say we loved them, but God loved them more. That statement, you know, when you're talking to the person who has just lost somebody, you're telling them God loved them more. They don't doubt and they have no problem with the fact that God loves this person. But they're asking themselves, why did God take this person away? That's what they're dealing with. I think sometimes we have all the right things in the wrong places. We're saying all the right things in the wrong places, or the wrong things at the right time. They want to know, why did you take away this? If you give a child a toy and you take away that toy, the child is not doubting that you're going to keep the toy, but they have formed an attachment to that toy at that particular point, and they know the benefits of having that toy, and that's what they are mourning, that's what they wail about and cry about. It's not because they think you're going to break it or throw it or something. So sometimes we must understand the perspective of this person who is feeling the pain. It is not because they doubt that God loves. It is not because they doubt that the person is in a better place. Like we always like to say, oh, you know, they're now in a better place. I mean, if right now you were traveling and you're going for 3 months, probably your wife, Maria, would shed a tear at the airport. It's not because she doesn't know where you're going. In fact, she knows when you arrive, you might text. But it's that separation that is causing that pain. So we must understand that the pain that the people feel is valid at that particular point, and not to diminish or minimize it. Yeah. All
right, we want to take a short break. When we come back, remember we're talking about dealing with loss. If you have any comments, any other questions, the hashtag to use is Daybreak. The SMS line is 22422. When we come back, we'll talk about how different people deal with the loss as well, and then how we can take the conversation forward. Because there's still some people who have some different cultures that they even have whenever they're dealing with loss of loved ones. So don't go too far, we'll be right back. And tweets that have come in terms of feedback, let's take a look at them. Pascal Wanjala says, I lost my grandmother a few years ago and I thought maybe she was old and had lived a good life, but anytime I'm alone and I look at her pictures, a lot of nostalgia sets in to the point of crying. Orangi Cleophas says, death is so cruel. When it comes, it does not knock at your door. I lost my brother on a Grizzly Road accident and it really took time for me to recover. Zilopi, precisely, Burale. No one knows how it feels. It's just a matter of giving a shoulder to lean on when in dire need. I keep talking to us using the hashtag Daybreak. Now, there are In case you're just joining us, we're talking about dealing with loss in different. CJ has given his story. RB has also given his story as well, and there are also some different ways people deal with loss. For example, I've been told that if you walk to, for example, in Nairobi here at the Langata Cemetery, there are still parents who every morning they habitually go to where their kids, the graveside of their children, and they still water the plants, for example, over the grave or the wreaths that are laid there. So for such, is that their way of dealing with loss? How long should they allow it to continue? Will they ever get over such a thing? How does that happen?
I think Sija said it well. Let people mourn the way they know how to mourn. You understand? And I know sometimes when the religious circles, you can call it demonic. Why are you going there what are you going to do? Let them do what they have to do. Sometimes just pray for people from afar, that God can help them. You understand? I remember when my brother died, every year on that date that my brother died, my mom would write on the condolence book a message to my brother. And I said, just stop it, And after some time, I didn't tell her, stop it now. I said, it's causing you pain. I prayed about it, and one time she told me herself, she closed that book, kept it away. But you go and try to tell somebody you're doing the wrong thing. Well, you don't know how they feel, If CJ lost his mother, that's not my mother. I don't know how they grew up together, how tight they were, He said, I remember one of his Facebook posts, she was a pillar. You understand? Now, when you tell somebody, stop mourning your pillar, you don't know the journey. We know CJ's story with his father and everything, so the mother really had to step in. So when you try to tell him, stop it, you're not doing it right, and you came from a different background, where you have maybe both your father and your mother present, then I'm bringing in my meal to try and feed him, yet mine is chicken and he's a vegetarian. You understand? So let people go through the motion. I think for me, the only thing I will tell you is that when you see somebody mourning, don't tell them do it this way or stop. Stand with them, walk with them, pray for them. The things you feel that they need to stop for their own good, don't go and tell them. They'll be very defensive and they will tell you, you don't know how it feels. So go to your secret place, pray for them. And the God who sees will answer your prayer and start dealing with that person in the way he knows how to deal with that person. And that person will tell you himself, guess what? I stopped going to the graveyard, and you're like, okay, that's good, kumbe, you prayed about it. You understand? So just move with people. Let people go through the emotion. If a child has lost the father or the mother, if that child, there are other things that are not good and need to be stopped. There are people who are angry for nothing, because not for nothing, they are angry and they start abusing everybody. Now that one, you got to put a lid on it, Some go into drinking and drugs, you need to step in and help. But where it's not really harmful in a major way, move with them, pray with them, and understand them.
The couples that break, while Arbi is talking about that, I just remembered a couple that I had to deal with at some point where they lost a baby. Again, sometimes people think that the loss of a baby, if you've never lost a baby, you think, that one had not yet even lived. So they think it's easy. But for the mother who loses a baby, even at childbirth, the kind of trauma that they go through is absolutely crazy. So people will think, because we never knew this one has never lived, it's an easier loss. It's not an easy loss. Just like the guy who was talking about, he lost his grandmother, thinking that because they are older, it's not an easy loss either. I have a friend who was losing the mom when she was 93, and he told me he had never seen that kind of pain. And one guy also who told me he could not, he's a lecturer, he's in his 60s, and he could not work when his father passed, and his father was in the 90s. So no matter the age and the stage of the person, the attachment usually is what will cause that pain. But I was saying, there's this couple that, they lost a baby. And so the man thought they needed to stay in and just moan. The lady thought she wanted to go out and run away from this, and eventually that caused a breakup in their marriage. And sometimes you find even couples dealing with those kind of things. They have issues around loss. We talked about blaming God. Sometimes people blame each other silently, where somebody will be feeling like, if you had done something, how come you did not notice the baby was choking? How come you did not notice the baby was not well? How come you did not do this or respond? So initially they don't want to attack each other. They don't want to seem like they're attacking each other. They go quiet, but then they begin to have issues around that, and people just go separate ways. It's important, for example, example, if you're a couple, you've lost a child, it's important that the two of you try to get together around the grieving process and that mourning process. And if possible, sometimes then you need to seek help. Because some of those issues that are not spoken about, people begin to have silent blame on each other, then they show up in the relationship 5 years down the line. You just find somebody drifted, and because they're angry either with the husband or the wife, they feel this person is the one that made us lose the baby or lose the child or did this. Sometimes people even go separate ways because they feel you did not mourn their side of the family like they did. They did not feel your presence, like a man or a woman who is mourning either a brother, a parent, somebody who was important to them, and then they feel the other person, the partner, did not mourn it like they thought. And so they feel what's important for me is not important to you. And they begin to have issues in their relationship, and very quietly so. So the loss comes with a lot of things, Willis. It changes a lot of things. It changes who people deal with. It changes who people will call. It causes people to delete numbers. You know, they just feel these people were not there for me. It is important for us, one, to mourn, two, to seek help in order to recover.
Yeah, that's the other thing I say is, how does one, like you say in the book, how does one pick up the pieces in your view? How do you pick up the pieces and start, you know, moving on, you know, especially so that you don't do things that are even detrimental to yourself.
Yes, and also you also have to know when to pick the pieces to move on.
Yeah.
You have to allow yourself to go through the motions. Anger, guilt, questions that cannot be answered by any man, blaming God, blaming the doctors, blaming yourself, and then accepting they have gone. And I think one of the ways, and I'm not saying I don't want to impose this, but I'm just giving an idea based on what I feel, is that I think there comes a time you have to start thinking about the good times. The positive things that this person brought into your life, and you start now going into a mode of thanksgiving. God, thank you. Thank you for the times we had. He was a very funny man. Like for my dad, the seed of salvation, of religion was put in me by my dad. As a truant as I was, he made sure I went to Sunday school and all that. Every time he lectured me, he only used the Bible or Shakespeare. So you start thinking about those things. Those are the only two books he used, by the way. So you start thinking about those things, and then you get to a place and start telling God, thank you for the moments I had with him, because when he was alive, it is the reason I am doing some things right, because of the counsel he gave me. And then you start thanking God. Even when, as a pastor, if you go and you're talking to people who have lost a loved one, don't just start telling them, celebrate, celebrate immediately. You know, it's easy to say that. It sounds very politically correct. But tell them, we know. We may not understand. You don't know the level of pain, but also make them realize that you appreciate the pain, the anger they're going through. And then with the passage of time, you know, now start thinking about the good things, you know. Oh, my dad did this for me, my wife, my husband. And then when you go into a thanksgiving mode, then God now starts also dealing with your heart. And then at that point, like if you have lost a husband or a wife, don't jump into another relationship immediately. Go through the motion. And then, because if you jump into one immediately, you'll be looking for your wife in that other woman. And then it's going to be impossible. Then you'll make it someone else suffer. So let's go through all that and then think of the good things and be in prayer. Because God is the only one who can deal with you best on your personality, your pain, because he knows that. Human beings, by the way, they will tell you what you want to hear, but some don't really care. In fact, let me tell you this. When you are in the church service for your loved one, some of the people come so that the photos capture them. Not that they really care. Oh, we thank you, God bless you, we are praying with you. The moment they leave, we are praying with them. At that time, they've already told somebody, as I'm shaking his hand, take a photo for social media. The moment they say we are praying for you, the moment they leave, that prayer is not there. Not all. Just understand that, because when you're dealing with loss and you feel everybody is there 100% with you, and then you discover they are not really there, it's double pain. So just wake up, be realistic, smell the coffee. Some will stand with you genuinely. Some are there to be seen that they were there, but they don't really have you in the depths of their heart.
Sort of manage expectations.
Yes.
Right. So, CJ, in your view as well, you know, how do you, what view do you get also to just, you know, pick up the pieces and move on?
You know, I've had this double responsibility at some point. For example, in the family where I had to be there for my mother and be there for everybody else. When I lost my sister, then I had to take up the responsibility of her children as well. So I was caught up in the middle of taking care of the other generation and then the next generation. And I think when it came to the point of the loss of my mom, then what made it easier for me to pick up the pieces was to remember there's another generation that now only has me. What I saw in my mother, that's what they're expecting of me. And life now cannot stop because they're expecting to be parented. They need to have that benefit. I had it for over 40 years. They need now to have that benefit of having a parent and having somebody who's going to guide them in doing that. So sometimes you must look at, okay, what needs to be done? What else needs to be done? Because life does not stop. You know, you go through the paces. Going biblical, God allowed Israel to mourn Moses for 30 days. He allowed that process. After that, he said, look, there's still work to be done. So you've got to look at, you know, life has got to go on. There's certain things that you're going to have to do. You don't lose the memory. You're not setting aside the memory of this person. But if they were around, what would they tell you to do? If they were still there, sitting in a house, not moving, if they're unwell, they're in hospital, what do they tell you? What do they say? Robert, what would his father say? He would say, Robert, go to work. You know, he'd say, go to work, do this. So you also think about, if this person was here, what would they want you to do? What were their dreams about you? They were not dreaming for you just to get stuck and moan about them and stay there. They've finished their course, but they're cheering you on, if I may use that. They want you becoming your best. And I think the greatest tribute you can give to a loved one that has passed is for you to fulfill your greatest potential. Become all that you can. That's the greatest tribute that you can ever give to somebody who you loved and passed on. Because later on, as you hit your pinnacle, you can always bring their memory into that. It would be so sad for them to realize that when they left life, you stopped living. So you just pick up the pieces and say, I'm going to make them proud. I'm going to make their memory become great. I'm going to fulfill the dreams, the aspirations that they had. Sometimes you feel, you know, they're not here to see. No, they saw it. They saw it before it started manifesting. That's why they believed in you. So understand that the loved ones that you lost, they wanted the best for you. So just pick up the pieces and make them proud.
All right. So I just want to end it there. But before that, of course, there are probably those who are watching, like I said, who are dealing with it. It could be this week, it could be last week, it could be a month. Those are still pretty fresh. 2 months, 3 months, dealt with loss in one way, shape, or form. Maybe you can look at your individual cameras before you take some feedback. Or first, let's take the feedback. Yeah, let's take the feedback and then we'll do the final comments. We have Miles Papi who says, it's true, never tell someone you understand them in time of pain. People handle their loss in very different ways. Kennedy at Tinder 1, to embrace greatness, it is to cause trouble with the same breath. Willis, I lost my dad, and the pain I feel at some point triggered me to write a book to sweep my sorrow from desperation to demonstration. And then you have some SMSs now. You didn't leave your name, but you said, I've lost 3 pregnancies. Wow, it's painful. The pain is so intense, I can't compare it to the pain when I lost my parents. This is more than you can imagine. We are very, very, very sorry for that. Maybe even you can address that and others. Maybe you can look at your leave. I think yours is 1 and yours is 2. You can go ahead and do that. We'll start with you, Arby.
Well, for me, just to tell anybody who's going through the stage of loss is that words cannot make you feel better, but the best we can do is offer our prayers for you. But the Lord will just be with you at this moment, and the Lord will also send the right people, genuine people around you to stand with you in this very difficult moment. The best we can do is pray for you and just know you are absolutely loved. Be strong, but go through all the stages. Don't try to be a man. If you have to scream, just scream. But the only thing I can offer is, honestly, from the depths of my heart, is a prayer for you. And the Lord who answers, the Lord who hears our prayers in secret, will reward you, will heal you, and you'll be able to move on in the right time. Don't forget them, but also try and get to a place of remembering the good, the time you shared with them, the good, the bad, actually. And you know, that makes the beautiful bit that is life. God loves you, we love you, we pray for you, And may you understand that it's not only you who has lost somebody, but other people also will be sent to stand with you who have been through that, but not understanding the depth of your pain, but will understand that, you know, when you just want to talk, they will sit with you. But the Lord sticks closer than a brother. He's with you right now. He will comfort you. He will love you. And ladies and gentlemen, be blessed.
Well, I think, as I said, you know, when you lose loved ones, what do they want for you? They want for you to become the best that you ever could. You go out there and, you know, make a difference with your life, make an impact. Do something, create a memory that when you also leave this life, people will talk about that, you know, of the impact that you left in their hearts. Eventually, what will matter is what you left in people, not what you gathered around you. So every single day, we have the opportunity to become better people, to become greater people, to go out there and do something that is going to impact everyone else around us. Don't stick forever at the point of loss. You know, if you're still feeling that pain over so many years, seek help. Find somebody you can talk to, a counselor, a pastor, a religious leader, whoever it is. Find help, go through the motions, get well, keep on living, because there are other people who are looking up to you so that they can draw their strength as well.
All right, thank you very much. And of course, CJ's book is called It Is Not Well. It is available. You can, you know, DM him at CJ Atemo. You can go ahead and DM him. It's called It Is Not Well. It'll help you deal with loss and find some closure as well. So that book, this book is available as well. And just like everybody has said, in case it's happened to you, you know, we can only offer prayer, our condolences to you. We hope that you can find strength and to move forward in the direction of growth and healing, and hopefully you can find some form of closure. For me, one of the most painful losses I've had there are many, but some that stand out is one, my grandmother, who believed in me completely, and my aunt Janet, who, you know, really was waiting for the day that I'll be on TV and be able to say my name. Every time I say my name, Willis Wayne Raburu, I remember Aunt Janet. So everybody, remember, we all go through it. But like everybody said, the key is to find help. We always say at the end of this show is don't suffer alone. Don't be afraid. It is okay to seek help, even if it's a psychiatrist, a psychologist, counseling. It is okay. It doesn't demean you. It doesn't take anything away from you. If not, in fact, it reintroduces you to yourself, and then you get to move forward. So remember, God loves you, and that will never change. And as I always say, no matter the bed you woke up in, God still loves you, and that will never change. And successful people look like you and Manchester United next season. Mungu awabariki.